Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, the U.S. suffers record heat in July. It was the hottest month in 118 years of record keeping.
There are 95,000 4-H members in Mississippi. See what they're up to these days.
In today's Southern Gardening, we'll show you how to turn your shady places into show places.
In the markets, traders get the first objective yield survey for the fall harvest as some Asian grain buyers shift away from expensive U.S. corn.
In the feature segment, interest in community-supported agriculture and local food is growing in Mississippi, as evidenced by the many farmers markets that have sprung up around the state. A relatively new statewide organization is gaining ground as it works to connect people with local food producers and demonstrate sustainable ways to grow food and use energy.
So we identify what sustainable initiatives are going on in Mississippi already. We make connections among those, and then we expand on those. We've got chapters all over the state now. We've got about 5 chapters going on all over the state. We do a conference every year that brings in about 200 people, usually every year.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artist Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
You probably already heard the news. July was the hottest month on record for the lower 48 states of the United States.
Leighton, the United States started keeping weather records in 1895, 118 years ago. Well, with these sorts of temperatures, it's not surprising that the amount of the nation affected by dry weather has gone up as well. The average temperature for the contiguous U.S. was almost 77 degrees. That's 3.3 degrees higher than the average for the 20th century. It broke the previous record set in July of 1936. Now, the first 7 months of 2012 were also the hottest on record. The last 12 months were also the hottest one-year period, or I should say, the hottest one-year period on record. Now, the U.S. Drought Monitor says the drought's footprint covers almost 63% of the lower 48 states. In Mississippi, the extreme northwest corner has seen the most dry weather. Well, what about Mississippi in July? Well, the National Climatic Data Center says that Mississippi's temperatures were the 30th warmest on record. Precipitation in Mississippi was above average in July. It was the 18th wettest July on record. Well, in terms of looking at the crop report now, we'll see how things are treating us. Topsoil moisture in Mississippi, 1% surplus, 75% adequate, which is good, but 24% of the state with short to very short soil moisture conditions. Looking at crop conditions themselves, we see some great crops that'll be in this fall if it doesn't rain. Mississippi corn, 33% excellent, 44% good. Mississippi soybeans, 77% of the crop in good to excellent shape. As we look at Mississippi cotton, another good crop coming in there, 19% excellent, 48% good. As we look at Mississippi rice, 24% of the crop in excellent shape, 54% good. Mississippi peanuts, 17% excellent, 68% in good condition.
Most folks have heard of 4-H, and most folks have heard of the Extension Service, but many people still don't make the connection between the two entities. 4-H is the Extension Service's youth development program with activities for children ages 6 to 18 in most counties. 4-H groups from all over Mississippi make a field trip to Jackson each year before the legislature is over to make sure their connection with Extension is clear and that their individual achievements in their home communities are recognized.
Several of our members have helped with cleaning up after flood victims and the tornado victims, and several people helped with the Salvation Army, delivering meals to those who were affected by the tornadoes.
The past 12 months have been busy for many 4-H members in Mississippi. The annual 4-H Banner Club program in Jackson showcases some very good work to a very important audience.
Our elected officials and governmental officials get to see what the 4-H program is doing with our youth of the state of Mississippi. We are developing those youth into productive citizens. and who knows, they might be step into their shoes one day.
Our main community service project is our Sweetheart Rodeos, which are special needs rodeos that we have for just anyone that would like to come in our community. And we have a food drive right before Thanksgiving, and we donate all of the food that that's donated to a local food pantry.
Outstanding 4-H clubs are individually recognized for their projects before the audience of state legislators. The corporate sponsor of the 4-H Banner Awards program for the past 3 years has been AT&T. Mississippi AT&T President Mayo Flint says he is convinced the company is investing its money in the right place.
We believe that 4-H is one of the best programs that we can support to be supportive of our state, the future of our state, and to provide future leaders.
There are 95,000 4-H members in Mississippi who are supported in their activities by some 8,000 adult volunteers. From Jackson, I'm Leighton Spann reporting.
Well, does your summer landscape get a little too hot for good color? Well, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us how to turn your landscape's shady pockets into an oasis from the sun.
The summer temperatures are really heating up and can make gardening a chore. Creating small vignettes using shade-loving plants can make the summertime more enjoyable. Today I want to share some tips my friend Mary uses to create shady scenes using interesting foliage that add interest to the hot summer landscape. One of my favorite scenes is what I call the rabbit patch. The stone rabbit sits in a mixed planting of foliage and flowers. Holly fern provides a good backdrop with its glossy dark green foliage. The Mediterranean vinca, with its spreading habit, is a good ground cover. Pineapple sage is usually grown for the cardinal red flowers, but here in the shade it's a fine foliage plant. And how can you miss the caladium? In fact, Mary uses caladium throughout her landscape vignettes. Mary's back courtyard is dominated by the large live oak whose shade is most welcome this time of year. Though you can clearly see where the brick walk is going, the curve makes you wonder what's around the corner. This statue of St. Francis is surrounded by colorful foliage. Multicolored red tie plant and tricolored ginger really show off against the green background of azalea. The red irisine adds to the splash of color. These are good examples of using shady pockets in the landscape during the sweltering summer months. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says that soil preparation is also important for shade gardens, but there are a lot of plants that can thrive in the shade, and you can enjoy the shade with them. In the feature segment today, a Starkville, Mississippi organization is working to connect people with their food and showcasing how to live sustainably. Time now for the markets with Leighton, and the August crop production reports are out.
They are out, and significant, of course, because they are the first objective yield survey of the 2012 crop. Also this week in the markets, rising prices hurt U.S. corn demand. Higher crude oil prices are said to be supportive to cotton, and tight supply should boost cattle prices. This edition is being recorded just before the release of the monthly crop reports from the USDA. On average, Dow Jones Newswires reports that analysts overall expect U.S. corn production to be down almost 2 billion bushels from the July figures. Average corn yield is cut 20 bushels per acre from last month. Now for soybeans, U.S. production is projected to be down 264 million bushels from July's report. The average bean yield is cut 3.3 bushels per acre from last month. Many analysts are saying there's no doubt the present corn market is starting to hurt demand. For example, this week South Korea passed on a purchase of 70,000 metric tons of U.S. corn for December because of high prices. And there are now even reports Japan is buying corn from Brazil and the Ukraine instead of the United States. Some traders say they feel that getting Friday's first objective yield data in the new reports should help make the corn picture a little clearer.
Wait and see till we get out in the fields what the actual yields are. I think we tend to forget that we've got a lot of pretty fancy hybrids out in the country that have the ability to yield fairly well if you get any kind of rain. So there is some decent yield potential yet in some of these areas.
Meanwhile, the ethanol production outlook for this year continues to fall, given the Midwest drought's impact on those corn prices. The Energy Information Administration has lowered its 2012 U.S. production forecast for ethanol over 3%. The EIA does say it expects ethanol production to recover some by the second half of 2013. Well, after being lower still earlier in the week, cotton traded higher Thursday morning after the new weekly export sales report. Sales came in about as expected, according to analysts. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley has some analysis of the cotton market in this interview. John Michael, as we sit here and record late Thursday morning, I understand the cotton market trading steady to higher. Is the market expecting something out of the new supply and demand reports on Friday?
Well, I think that there is an expectation that production is going to be lower just a little bit. It's been sitting at 17 since they came out with the new crop projections. The dry weather, it really has reduced the condition of the crop marginally, not near as bad as corn or soybeans, but cotton has taken a bit of hit in places like Texas and Arkansas. But I think Mississippi's crop is doing really well compared to other regions and other states. But I think the overall expectation is to lower that production number just a notch. Well, what the market's really been trading off here lately is what's going on in India, and they're at the monsoon season where they typically get their rain is not happening. They've dealt with this for a number of years now, and so it really is expected to lower the world supply. And I think that's where the market is really getting a lot of traction.
All right, speaking of the world, what's news out of China regarding cotton? Anything significant to speak of there these days?
Where exports are moving along pretty steadily, nothing stellar. We've seen the dollar kind of move up and down. Anytime it moves down, you see some action on the trade front. It moves up and people back off. But for the most part, China appears to be where they have been, and they're going to be a big buyer. They always will, and they probably will continue to be. So they're always the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
All right, there's been a lot of commentary this week about crude oil prices being supportive to cotton right now, as well as the dollar. Does that still hold true?
That's one of the fundamentals that we continue to see hold. Another one is just the overall economy. We've seen a jump in housing starts for the month over month. Housing starts have picked up. That's always a good indicator that says the economy is starting to rock and roll. Cotton has always been one that's more finicky to changes in the overall economy, and so anytime you see the general economy pick up, that's usually good for cotton demand.
And again, after the Friday reports, since that's the first objective yield survey, we should have a little better idea what's going on with that.
That's correct. It should be one that we can sink our teeth into more because they do have some actual field data.
A sign of China's slowing economy is being seen in the forestry products sector these days. The Chinese are reducing the number of logs they are importing from the U.S. as well as Russia and New Zealand. Wood Resources International says log imports by China are down about 15% in the first 6 months of this year. Our trivia quiz is forestry related this week. Let's take a look now. Who is considered the father of the modern chainsaw? Is it Martin McCulloch, Andreas Still, Henry Husqvarna, or Eli Whitney? I'll tell you the answer shortly.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar in the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports cattle supplies are tight, while the nation's largest poultry producer is struggling with costs. In the feature segment today, interested in community-supported agriculture and sustainable living? Well, there's a new Mississippi group that's more than willing to help.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed when farm tractors overturn. One cause of these accidents is improper hitching. If a tractor is hitched at any point above the drawbar, it can flip over backwards. Never hitch a tractor using the bar between the three-point hitch upper and lower links or at the top link attachment point. The stationary drawbar is the only safe location for tractor hitching. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Now, before we get back to the markets, let's check the Farm Week calendar. The annual Muscadine Field Day will be Thursday, August 16th. This year, the location will be at the Beaumont Branch Experiment Station instead of the usual site at Poplarville. The Beaumont Station also participates in evaluating muscadine varieties. The free program runs from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Muscadine insects, fertilization, diseases, and how to grow them will be covered. The Beaumont station is on Highway 15 between the towns of Beaumont and Richton. It's located 9 miles south of Richton and 5 miles north of Beaumont. A tree identification workshop will be held Tuesday, August 28th. You'll learn the various ways to identify trees, including just by the leaves. The location is Corinth City Park, also known as the Crossroads Regional Park. The hours are 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Registration is $20, and you do need to pre-register by August 23rd. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Tyson Foods, as well as other meat producers, are coping with the rising animal feed cost. Tyson CEO Donnie Smith said this week that as far as chicken production, his company has no plans to cut production because they are already producing below demand levels. Smith noted that the rising input costs will ultimately be passed along to customers in the form of higher prices for chicken, beef, and pork in 2013. For the cattle sector, expected tight supplies in the fourth quarter of this year continue to be a hot topic in the trade. Analyst Alan Brugler says this situation usually helps out prices.
USDA's most recent estimate was in the 92 or 93% of a year ago range. That's a fairly substantial drop off year over year. Our placed against numbers suggested there's a definite drop off in September and October. From the supply side, we'll have less to work with. That typically is going to drive the price up. You're seeing that with the December futures acting much better than, say, the August.
Just before a new feature story, let's see how you did with our trivia quiz this week. The correct answer is B. Andreas Still, a German engineer, patented the first gas-powered chainsaw in 1929.
In today's feature segment, Farm Week's Amy Taylor tells us about a new organization that's helping to change the way that we eat, shop, grow food products, and use energy resources.
Artists, the Gaining Ground Sustainability Institute of Mississippi is making great strides in educating the state about sustainability. With a rising interest in healthier living and improving our land and energy sources, the organization spreads its message by traveling to schools and various public events in Mississippi, and even has its own bus. With growing awareness of the need to live healthier and protect the environment, Mississippi is taking sustainable living to a whole new level. Gaining Ground Sustainability Institute for Mississippi, founded by Mike and Allison Bueller, is helping communities develop a new way of life.
We moved back to Mississippi after living in Knoxville, Tennessee, and in Knoxville we had a lot of local food and alternative energy, and it was just pretty common there. And so when we moved back, we were looking for that community again, and then those kind of things. We wanted to put solar panels on our house and couldn't find anyone to do it in the whole state. So we thought surely we're not the only ones that are concerned about these issues, and we started gaining ground basically around our kitchen table.
My wife and I came up with this crazy idea back in 2010 to have an institute that addresses issues of sustainability. Sustainability issues are going to become more and more important in the coming years with energy inputs, be it oil or gas or fertilizers are going to become more expensive, and we got to experience what $4 a gallon gasoline feels like. And that translates into everything, including agriculture, construction, architecture.
Our mission is to build a sustainable Mississippi, and the way we do that is by pulling people together and networking throughout the state. So we identify what sustainable initiatives are going on in Mississippi already, we make connections among those, and then we expand on those. We've got chapters all over the state now. We've got about 5 chapters going on all over the state. We do a conference every year that brings in about 200 people, usually every year, and we change the place every time so that we can hit a different audience. And we're very involved with a newsletter that has over 1,300 people reading it right now.
Additionally, Gaining Ground began publishing the annual Journal of Sustainable Living, filled with inspiring stories and information. Allison Bueller says sustainability is defined as meeting our current needs without sacrificing the ability for future generations to meet their needs. This includes supporting local businesses, recycling, reducing chemicals in food products, and conserving water and energy resources. Mike Bueller emphasizes the importance of reusing materials we often throw out.
You can use a lot of the things that you have, in your yard or on your farm to recycle those and bring those back into the process of growing food and raising your livestock. Everything that you normally would throw out, like your leaves that come out of your tree, your lawn clippings. And of course, we raise chickens and we keep all our chicken manure here. Cardboard, plastic, all the things that everyone should recycle. But just all the organic matter, essentially, that accumulates and a lot of times just gets put on the curb, can all be recycled and put back into your soil to keep it fertile.
Bueller says these practices will benefit not only our health, but secure healthy land resources for the future. Furthermore, Gaining Ground State Board Vice President Mandy Sanders says the organization wants to help communities learn from each other.
What Gaining Ground is trying to do is to connect these farmers in Mississippi that are using these sustainable methods to let them learn from each other and also to connect them to the consumer.
To help fund this initiative, Sanders says Gaining Ground celebrated its very first annual farm-to-table dinner.
I had really had this vision for a farm-to-table dinner in Starkville. We have so many great farmers in the area and new farmers and young farmers that I just thought it would be a great way to highlight it. So when we were brainstorming fundraising ideas, I just knew it would be a perfect fit. We have lots of local produce, lots of heirloom tomatoes and lots of heirloom baby vegetables, squash, green beans. We have goat. We also have goat's milk that was turned into ice cream and cheese. We have cow's milk that was made into cheese. So just an extreme variety. We have lots of herbs, flowers, just pretty much anything.
Sanders says proceeds will go toward various Gaining Ground activities, such as providing hands-on education. For example, what was a school bus has been repurposed into the Mississippi Mobile Farm, fueled mainly on vegetable oil. Allison Bueller says the bus travels around the state to schools, festivals, and expos to educate communities about sustainable living.
Everything's on the bus. So we have a rain barrel on the bus. We have plants that are growing on the bus. We've got a worm bin. Sometimes we'll bring a chicken to school and eggs. We have a honeybee hive so kids can see those things up close. Kids can walk through and they can smell herbs and touch herbs and taste tomatoes right off the plant. And really a lot of kids haven't had that experience.
In addition, Gaining Ground is bringing fresh, healthy food products to local schools by launching a program called Fresh Start.
The farmer brings the food to them, a local farmer that I can go out and visit his land and see what he's doing, what kind of practices he's employing. And it keeps money in the community. And the cook was very excited about preparing fresh food. Most cooks in the kitchen now are just heating up processed food that's frozen. Anything that had, high fructose corn syrup was out. Anything that was white rice or things like white bread, we turned to whole wheat, whole grain. Just made some good changes.
Bueller says Fresh Start has actually saved some money, and she hopes to bring the program to more schools. Sam McLemore, who operates Bountiful Harvest Farms of Starkville, has found a unique way to promote sustainable living.
I grow produce for currently 10 families in Starkville. This summer we'll be expanding to 20 families here in Starkville, and again growing organic produce, and they get a share or a piece of my vegetable garden each week. They receive a bag full of vegetables. So personal gardener is what you could consider me for these families, and I'm growing just a wide variety of vegetables, from peas to beans, asparagus, blueberries, lettuce, kale, cucumbers, tomatoes, and the list goes on and on.
McLemore says Gaining Ground has been a tremendous help in connecting him with other farmers and consumers.
We're on the beginning of a wave of new young gardeners, young farmers that are able to really make an effect across the nation and across the world to feed everyone. The world is growing and everybody needs to eat, so we should all eat healthy, and so I'm trying to do my part in providing healthy produce for happy people. One person asked me that stopped by the garden, "Man, are you crazy out here growing vegetables out in the wide open? You're just going to be feeding Starkville." And I said, "You know, that's probably a good idea. I think the more people I can feed, the better.
As communities pull together to secure healthy lifestyles, Gaining Ground Sustainability Institute for Mississippi can look forward to a bright future in bringing new life to sustainable living. From Starkville, Mississippi, I'm Amy Taylor reporting. Go to our Farm Week website if you'd like to see this story again. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You can also see it on YouTube and Facebook. We'll also have links and other contact information on Gaining Ground on our Farm Week website and Facebook pages.
Good to see people getting in touch and realizing how food is actually produced,
That's exactly
regardless of how you do it.
Exactly right.
Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, America wants their fruits and vegetables, but it's hard for farmers to harvest them when labor is not there to do it.
We'll go to the nation's salad bowl, California's Central Valley. Many farmers there want immigration reform and a guest worker program. Some say they're already seeing fewer workers, and it's a factor in planning their production.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.